Meisner's technique teaches you how to read human behavior. So basically working on your scene partner to see more than just what they're saying, to read between the lines. This can help drastically with relationships.
Okay, welcome to another edition of the Living Boldly with Purpose podcast. I am Dr. B. I am your host, and just thinking about all the wonderful things. I was just talking to Jim here before we got going on the show, and thinking about what he's excited about, and how do we find the audiences that we want, and how do we make sure that we're living in purpose. And one of the things that is kind of exciting is that you actually have something you want to share with others, like something in a way that can help others become the people they need to be in order to do what they're doing in life. And you want to share that. You want to share what you're doing and how they can interact with it. And I don't know, and maybe you can talk about this when you tell your story, but how do you live in purpose and not serve others and not have other people a part of it and not do something for our fellow human beings, and the importance of making sure that we're in community, that we're in relationship, that we're not trying to do this thing all on our own. But I think that's where we kind of get scared, or the loneliness of, I would even say, social media. You know, as we get on social media and we start scrolling, and there's two sides of it, right? There's the entertainment side of social media, where we just scroll and we look for things that either kind of numb our life or to excite us or to take us away from the life that we have. And then there's the education side of social media. And I think about 80% of all the requests, or the Googles, are how to. So how do I do this? How do I do that? And so we can serve people by giving those. But on the educational side, there's another part of it that is just personal development. And that's where, how do I get better at what I do so that I can go serve others, so that I can then become the person that I need to be in order to do what I was put on this planet to do. And so so many aspects of it. And so hopefully if you're watching this, you're saying, hey, I want more out of life. I don't want to just be entertained. I want to learn something, because I want to grow so that I can help others grow. And so if you are that person, you are on the right spot. If you're looking to see somebody ride a skateboard down the street holding an ocean spray can, then that's probably not going to happen on this video, unless, Jim, you want to jump outside and ride down the street on a longboard, and people can be entertained by that. But I've asked Jim to tell his story, and thank you for being on today. Thank you for being willing to show us who you are, more than just what you do. And that's one of the things that I love about this show and what we do, is when, by asking him to tell his story and where he came from, we get to know Jim, the man, not Jim, what he does for a living. And so often we are asked, what do you do? And then we tell them what we do for a living, or we tell them what we do outside of what we really love. And they never really get to know us, right? Because they go, okay, well, that's that guy who said he's a doctor. I guess he's a doctor. I don't know nothing about being a doctor, so I won't ask him any more questions. But hopefully from his story and who we come, you'll be compelled to jump into the things that he talks about, and maybe even try to contact him if he just relates to you in a special way. So, Jim, thanks again for being on. You get to tell your story. Start wherever you want in life, and then we'll just chop it up from there.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate your introduction. That's lovely. And thank you for your time and having me on your show. Because, like I said, I feel like I got something important I do want to share. I guess for my story wise, this idea, it goes back all the way back to the beginning, to 4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was 4 years old, my parents took me to midnight mass, and it freaked me out. The concept of eternity, just, it was too much for me to process. If there's no end, there could be no middle. It's just a perpetual beginning. 10 trillion eons from now, I'm still just beginning my journey. I didn't understand the time, but it was the concept of, how do I not go insane with boredom once I've done everything many times over? And it just popped in my head. So somehow instinctually, I just started treating my mind like a computer, and I started creating programs. Two of the programs that I created as a youth were referred to as my suits bubbles. My suits were just different versions of, like, anytime I met another individual, I would listen to them actively. I would copy anything I could mentally and emotionally about them and create a version of them as me inside of myself. And my bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. They could be anytime, any place, anywhere I wanted to. And I would take my suits, different versions of me, put them in my bubbles, and I would just play out different scenarios of what's happening. So if I was going to do something, I would run it through my head, as many times as needed till I felt confident in my answer before I actually did it in life.
Mhm.
And as I grew, I started getting more in tune with my emotions. I started feeling them outright. And that was the key, was feeling them, because it was essentially kind of like going to the gym and working out, except I was doing it with all my different emotions, all this energy inside of me. And by the time I hit adolescence, it's like puberty didn't hit me like the same as everyone else because I wasn't, untested for it. So I kind of grew through that with a greater ease, and I feel like that's important. I'll mention later. But once I got out, I mean, I got in and out of the Marine Corps. But once I got into acting around 2003, I started learning these tools and techniques, and they seemed familiar. Everybody kept telling me I was like, a natural, but I didn't realize it till about 2008 when I was doing this film called Hunger, and I was doing it opposite a scene opposite this gentleman named Lyndon Ashby, and I wasn't even on camera. He was on camera, but when the director yelled cut, he shook my hand like I pulled his baby out of a fire, and I couldn't understand it. It took me a
Hmm.
while to realize, and it's because the way actors perform. It's like if they're not on camera, they don't care. They're just reciting the lines. It's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. Where even though I wasn't in character at the moment, I was present with him in the moment. So when I delivered my lines and dialogue, even though I wasn't my character, it was still intentional enough to where he could do the work he needed to give his best performance on camera.
Hmm.
And it took me like maybe a month or two after that before I realized the connection that everything I'd been doing in my life mirrored these tools and techniques in acting. And furthermore, that meant everything was teachable. So that's when I realized that what I essentially had stumbled upon was a systemic way to teach mental and emotional literacy. And I realized the profound nature because, like, when we gave humanity written literacy, changed the world. When we gave humanity numerical literacy, changed the world. So my rationale is, if we give humanity a systemic way to learn emotional and mental literacy, why wouldn't it change the world? Because the way I see it is the human brain is a supercomputer. Well, what's the
Hmm.
operating system of the supercomputer? Right now, humanity pretty much just writes line code. We program us through school. What I'm saying is we can get in there, use these tools and techniques as like Windows 11 for our brains and have greater access to our mind and emotions instead of just being lost in the sauce. Now we have tools and techniques that can show us how.
So, I mean, I want you to keep telling your story, but you kind of talked about mental and emotional literacy. What is that? What is it? What is mental literacy or emotional literacy?
Let me
What does
take
that mean?
let me take them apart at each half. Um, Emotional literacy, that's being able to draw any emotion you have because they're your emotions. People who lose control of themselves, that's on them. I mean, it's they lose control because they've never been tested. But what I'm saying is, if you take the time from day one and start feeling and growing and develop these emotions like you do your muscles, like yeah, I could punch somebody in the face, but I also have the control not to. Emotions, you can hurt people. When we speak to people and we hit them with that emotional energy, it could be devastating under some circumstances. But if you learn how these things work, if you learn empathy, if you learn emotional regulation, those two tools right there are emotional literacy. So you take these two tools right here and you develop them through these tools and techniques. Mental literacy is understanding the moment. It's like you have adults who tell kids all the time, make good choices, don't do anything stupid, think before you act. That's a platitude. What does it mean? What are you saying? The Stanislavski system is 7 questions that break down a moment. Like, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment. When is it? The moment in relation to time. What do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Why do I want it? That's key. This is the moment in relation to desire. How do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. What's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. This is how actors take apart a moment for a character's mind to understand how they think. But I'm saying these are life questions. You can do the same thing in real life because the mind doesn't understand the difference between you performing on a stage and you being in real life. It's just using real emotions. It's using real thought process. What you put into it is what you get out of it.
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
So, like when you're thinking of these literacies, is it you're learning it so that you can control it and not be out of control, or understand what's happening to you so that you can make better decisions? I mean, why would we want to have these literacies as part of who we are, or develop them in a way? I think of like when I watch Bruce Lee and stuff. I mean, I don't know why I think about that, but
No,
his ability to control his environment based on his centeredness. Is that kind of? I mean, am I way
that's no,
off here? That
no, no. You're right in the neighborhood. And the short answer, the first thing you said was yes. It's for all of the above. It's kind of
okay?
like this. You're a submarine, right? Submarine can't see anything, can it? It's underwater. It's in the dark. It's got to shoot out sonar. That sonar sends out these pings. Those pings come back and tell them, okay, there's another submarine out there. There's a whale out there. The grounds are up ahead. There's ships
Mhm.
throwing depth charges out. It's giving you information so you can make better choices in that moment, so you don't do something stupid. That's one thing that this does. So basically, these 7 questions shoot this information out as soon as you walk into the moment, and they let you know more about what the moment is, what's going on in that moment, so you can make better choices. Because that's what it's about, making the best choices you can for the moment. Because most people
Mhm.
don't make choices at all. Most people have no idea what they want, more or less why they want it. So asking yourself, and like I said, this is just one piece of the puzzle. It unpacks so much more, and there's more tools, but just specifically this one here, it allows you to see what's going on in the moment. So kind of pull back the curtains. So instead of just walking to a situation and not seeing anything like anyone else does, now you walk in the situation, you fire off these questions in your head. It's like sonar pings back, brings these answers back. Now you got more information than people around you. Like even the rehearsal process. If I go into a job interview, you better believe I've rehearsed that job interview 7 different ways before I've even stepped in that room. Where most people, the first time they step in the room with the interviewer is the first time they've done it. I've already asked several questions. I've asked what kind of questions they might ask me. What are they looking for? Okay, there's other people. What are my obstacles, or other people trying to get this job? What are they bringing to the table that I need to bring to the table to match them? Stuff like that.
So, part of the things when I ask all my guests, we talk about identity and who we are and how our environment and the things around us shape that identity. The 5 or 6 people that we're around that we're like because it's what our parents told us. When I think it in the context where you're talking about it in this literacy, is how how important is our identity, and then being able to say, hey, my identity is always being enhanced, my identity is always being formatted because I'm thinking about this mental literacy portion of it where I'm trying to grow. Maybe you can kind of talk about how you started developing. I mean, I know you said you started this when you were 4, but how did this kind of shape your identity, maybe different than some of the people that you've been around or grew up around?
I would say in the simplest terms is I'm an amalgamation of every person I've ever come into contact with, because I'm always just actively listening, drawing in, making more versions. Because people say, it's like they'll say it all the time. It's like, yeah, but which version is you? And I'm like, no, they're all me. They're all
Moment, yeah.
they're aspects of me. It's kind of like, let's say if I'm wearing a suit to work, that suit's not me. Do I need to wear that suit when I'm going to the bathroom at home? Do I need to wear it when I'm going
Yeah.
to art class? No, we change clothes to fit the environment. What I'm saying is, why be one best self when you can have a wardrobe of different selves that you can use for the best moment? It's like there's a version of me that's the life of the party. So when I go out, I'm going to bring him out. Now, there's a version of me that's very studious. When I need to do something tedious, I'm going to bring him out so we can do this work. So I'm bringing the best version of me mentally and emotionally to the table for that moment I'm in that situation. So I'm saying it's like instead of trying to make that one version of you fit in every situation, code switch. This like I said, it's like hyper code switch is what I'm talking about. So you're breaking down all these different versions of you, and you're growing yourself in the process. So it's not like you're pretending to be someone else. I'm saying we're looking at it wrong. It's not about acting anymore. It's about being. We're using real emotions in imaginary circumstances. Like I said, the mind doesn't know the difference. We're just using real emotions. We're building real working mindsets. So if we put two and two together, we can literally be mentally and emotionally any other person on the planet. Because there's people out there who envy other people's, personalities. Well, you can be that, develop it. Like, what do you call it? Stage fright, or having a problem speaking in front of a crowd. What those really boil down to on non-clinical levels, just regular human interactions, is not knowing. people haven't asked enough questions. They haven't covered all the beats. Once you cover all the beats, there's nothing to be afraid of because you know it all. Fear comes
Mhm.
from known. So when we don't know how to give a presentation, we don't know how to speak, how to use that that presence, taking the stage, little things like that. Once you answer all those things, it's just easy.
Yeah, when I think about like you know how you're saying this and these different versions and you're an amalgamation of all the people that you've been around. There are some people that have turned, I can say for me, turned me off so much that I don't want to be anything like them. They are, I don't, for lack of a better word, evil in the side of, and I don't want that part to be part of me to jump out. I mean, I know we all can be all parts of it. Is there something you can do through this, these exercises and these techniques so that person doesn't show out because they're part of you because it happened? But how do you make sure that you don't like it so that you don't want it to come out or yeah.
There's different paths. I choose a harder road because most people will just ignore it. But to me, that's kind of like burying your feelings, hiding your feelings. To me,
Mhm.
I will experience them in the imaginative, not in this world here, but I will
Okay.
go into the imaginative because as I do that, I am tempering myself against them. Because most people
Okay.
get hit by them because they won't engage them, they won't experience them. I know my dark side. I know it very, very well. I've communed with it, so when it ever engages me, I recognize it immediately. I'm like, no, you got to shut down. And it's me taking that possession of myself and determining that this is not a part of me that I want to let out of myself, but I have to engage it so I know how to deal with it. So it doesn't when it hits me, it's not, oh, what is this? Where's it coming from? How does I don't understand. No, I got a firm grip of it, grab it by the throat and put it down like a freaking rabid dog if I need.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
it's it's facing it, facing your darkness. If you turn
Mhm.
back to it, it can do whatever it wants.
Gotcha. But since you've already faced it in the imaginary world, you already know how to react, how to interact, how to do. And so in the world that now interacts with real people and real relationships, you have a better idea or a better understanding of what is, I guess is it shapes a better relationship to have
I
healthy
also
relationships.
and others too. So when people are using techniques or manipulation tactics and stuff like that, the red flags, so to speak, I can see them a lot quicker. They come up more because I've seen them in myself, and I'm okay. That's where I was going with it. Where are you going with it? So it allows me to like zone in and put more focus on people who are
Mhm.
using these same techniques.
Yeah. So how do you have time? Or I think we all have time. We all have the same amount of time every single day, right? And it's just what we choose to do with our time. But how much of your time is spent working on these things, and are you giving up things like the entertainment side of television or, because well, you're an actor, so you want people to watch that kind of stuff and do that. So what do you like? What does your life look like to be able to be working on these all the time?
Well, there's a couple different things, and it's how we view time too. It's first of all, it's a lifestyle. It's just how I live because again, it hit me so young. And I did it a different way. The way I'm showing the book was created by actual acting masters. I did it a more sillier way as growing up because I made it my own way as my own.
Mhm.
But going back to time, it's kind of like have you ever most people have experienced this, it's a human phenomenon, where you're working in a job and you have a mundane task, so maybe you gotta assemble something and you fumble it together, or you gotta cook a meal at a restaurant and you fumble it together, but after 3 months working on the job, you don't even think about it, you put it together, right? You have
Yeah.
this time, but you're moving a lot faster, you sped up the processors, because the way the human mind works, the more you do a task, it just chunks it together, makes it easier. Well, I took that phenomenon and turned it on the way I think. So I sped up the way I think, essentially. Since I've been doing it since I was little, all I do now, and it's like now I literally have to slow down the way I think just to engage with people. Not, I'll just run off, and they're like, "Oh, where are you going?" But
Hmm.
I've cheated time in a sense because now that I've done it this way, I don't have to worry about losing out on other things because it's automatic. Like I said, I just walk into a room, ping sonar, all these questions come out, all this answer. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just information's there.
Okay. So that's, I mean, I'm getting it, and I'm trying. Like, I wrote a book called "There Is No Tiger," and it's about overcoming overthinking and controlling anxiety, and thinking that fear is uh, real fear is an imminent danger right now. A snake's getting ready to bite you, or somebody's going to hit you, or an alligator's going to get you. In my case, a tiger is going to eat you. But the other things that are happening in the future that we're overthinking, that's not true fear yet, because you're trying to control something that's imagined to happen, or something that hasn't happened yet, and we play these movies in our mind of all these possible outcomes that could come out, and then we just relive all the bad outcomes. We don't do, I tell everybody, we don't say, well, my wife's going to love me so much that the world's going to be the greatest world ever, right? We only go through these negative senses. And what I'm hearing you saying in that same scenario of overthinking, you're not really overthinking. You're playing all the scenarios that are possible, and you're taking them out to the end. And then now you're choosing which ones are going to benefit you. Am I getting that?
Mhm.
Because that would be cool, right? Because you say you're afraid of speaking, and so you go in and then you start imagining. Okay, so you start out with, say, the negative things. They're not going to like me. I look ugly. They're going to talk about me. They're going to hate me. All those things. But then instead of just sitting off that, you go, but wait a minute. What if I speak and they love me, and then they want me to do more speaking, and but I'm eloquent, and all the words that I need to say are going to come out, and now okay, I got both of these scenarios. I choose the good one. I'm
It's
gonna
like having a
choose.
roadmap. Now I can steer
Yeah,
in the direction I wanna go, and well, I mean, you do it anyway, but most people only do the bad roadmap. They don't do the
yeah,
good side.
exactly.
So
I
it's
wrote a whole book
all
about
these
it. Yeah.
terrible things. I was like, "Well, why don't you take the scenic route?" You know?
Mm-hmm.
But
Gotcha.
yes, agreed.
So yeah. So what do you do in order to practice this? Because, like you said, most people think about the bad things and don't know how to jump into what could be positive. My tendon, that, like, the techniques in my book are how to control some of those bad things, but I never spent part of it talks about thinking about the good things, but I know how hard that is. But it doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean we can't learn how to do it. It just means
Well, I think
it's not something we're used to.
that's the reason we're not taught how to do it because we don't have a system. It's like learning how to read without the alphabet, if nobody ever gave you the
Yeah.
alphabet, how do you
Okay.
start to read? So
Yeah.
these tools and techniques, like one, the Stanislavski system, which is one that I dumped out, breaks down a moment. So when you're telling somebody, well, make good choices, how to make good choices, well, here's a system that allows you to break down a moment to get you to think through it. You also have Stanislavski's magic if exercise, which is like my holodeck. It's basically a what if scenario. So basically, if I'm going into an interview, all right, everything we ran through the whole thing. Okay, what if this time when I reach over to shake his hand, I knock over a cup and spill a drink? Okay, what if this time, he hands me a pen and I'm like, oh man, I've seen this pen before, blah, blah, blah. And we have a conversation about the pen that connects us together. It's like all these what ifs that you can throw out there. Um, Meisner's technique teaches you how to read human behavior. So basically working on your scene partner to see more than just, what they're saying, to read between the lines. This can help drastically with relationships, men and women relationships, two things that are complained about. Men don't have empathy, men don't listen. Acting teaches empathy. Acting teaches how to listen on multiple different levels. We have tools and techniques that we can give people in relationships, like in counseling relationships, that can allow them both to communicate better. It's kind of like Stephen R. Covey's Seven Habits, the one that was like, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's what acting is. It's ultimate empathy. The whole goal to acting is to understand the truth of the moment, understanding, and that's what empathy is. At the very bottom layer is understanding. So if we give this out there, we're allowing people to not just feel better, but to become better people. And like I said, there's so many other tools and techniques. You have Uta Hagen's 10 exercises. Improv teaches how to think on your feet. So, and the beautiful thing is, all of this stuff has really been used out in the world, but it's only been used for broken people at the time. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno, who created psychodrama. Psycho
Mhm.
is group therapy that was created literally from using acting techniques. Trauma drama helps kids who have dealt with trauma using not the trauma they've gone through, but imagined traumas. So it allows them to learn the tools to help build themselves up against trauma. So once they do, they can tackle their own trauma, because you don't want them learning these tools while they're tackling their own trauma. It's too much. So creating these imagined scenarios allows them to, like I said, there's so many other examples I can give in the world, like Sing Sing Prison, where they were using the theater program actually help, give a positive influence to prisoners who will never leave the prison system. It's like I said, my point is, like, why are we stopping there? Let's give this to everybody. Like we give reading and math.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is that we all should be at least taught all these techniques of what it means to be an actor, get to practice it, not just as a separate class that you go to if you think you want to be a thespian or you want to be in the theater side of things. It's actually, hey, we're going to go to English. Now we're going to go to acting. Is that kind of how I'm understanding what you're saying? Or
Like that's one thing I keep saying. I really think we need to throw out the idea of acting. It's not about acting. It's about being.
okay.
These are the tools and techniques of how to be a human being. It's just we've been using them we've developed and used them so actors can portray any other human being.
Mhm.
But at their essence, they're just the tools and techniques of how to be human. So it's like the acting thing it's irrelevant. We're all acting. We're all in a scene. We're all playing roles. We're all moving across different stages. We just don't see it that way. I'm saying if we take away that illusion, pull back the curtain and realize that we have the tools and techniques to help emotionally and mentally develop and grow any human being into whoever they want to be. Let's do it. It's not about pretending or representation anymore. It all changed about 100 years ago. For the first, I would say, 2100 years to the 2500 years of Western acting, it's been representation, pretend, all of that good stuff. But the 300 years between, during like Victorian era, it changed a little more to realism. But it was really in the early 1900s with the advent of Konstantin Stanislavski, and that's pretty much the derivative of the world. He's like the grandfather of acting, or the current acting method, and he changed everything. His books, the ABCs of Acting, are like these three thick volumes. It's basically his philosophy of acting. And if you look at how this dude lived, it was very much it was like scientific acting. He was very rich Russian, and he had his own conservatory theater, and he had his own actors, and he just ran them again and again, perfecting his system. And it's like now he laid it out, and it's like I said, this is literally, he didn't realize it, but he's teaching us how to be human on a whole new level.
Mhm. Gotcha. One of the things that currently I'm working on a book that's called Be Do Have, becoming the person you need to be in order to do what you were put on this earth to do. And part of why I'm loving what you're telling me, because as I'm saying, okay, most people or a lot of people try to do it opposite. They try to have do be right. They say this is what I want to have. Now I go start doing, but I never become the person that should be doing it. And if you can become the person, I hope I didn't lose you. There we go. If I can become the person, the doing just comes from it. You can't help but do what you've become. But what gets hard is, how do I become that person? And you're saying there's a set of techniques that we could do, that we could concentrate on, that we could work through, that help us become that person now that can go start doing, because we're that person who is equipped now to go do the thing. And then we get to start having, whatever those desires are, whatever those things are, instead of, or some people did, when we just do, we just said, hey, I just got to go do, I just got to go do something. And then they start, and then they mess everything up because they have not become or spent the time learning, and even whether it's in their mind or whether it's, like you're saying, the different techniques and realizing the person that I am, and becoming. Is there, like, as you're saying, okay, I want to be more, I want to be this person, is there a place to start, or is there a place that you go, okay, I got to learn these techniques at some point, and then I grow from them, like, in traditional teaching? Or is it just sitting with yourself enough to know, hey, I don't, as I'm imagining, there's got to be somebody who helps teach you these things, right?
Absolutely. One thing, like if you're by yourself, I would say, and this is just a small piece of advice that I always give, is learn in the direction of your dreams. Understand what you want.
Okay.
Is if you know what your dream is, if you know who you are, the rest is it's easy to move in those directions because you have a starting point. It's like anything. Like if I want to go somewhere, I need a starting point and a finishing point. That'll give me my direction. If you don't have direction, if you don't know where you are and where you're going, then you're just adrift in the ocean. So if you take those 2 points, now you have somewhere to go. So who am I? What is my dream? What do I want? And make sure all the learning builds on that and drives you into that direction you're going to. That was another point I had, but I forgot it. The screen fizzled out a little bit. But with basically these tools and techniques, if you take them, develop yourself, you grow more. Now this is
Yeah.
going to like this is just something that I'm saying. I'm a firm believer that free will is a learned and developed skill. So the more I build myself, the more I grow myself, the more free will I have, the more capability I have to do things. I can reach out and do things my counterparts can because I've developed and built these parts inside of me. So it allows me to further reach out into the world. So that's what I like about these things. So I started out just a little kid scared of, you know, an idea. But now it's like I've grown into someone with fortitude. It's like I can handle any situation. I don't care who the person is, and it's not like a tough guy alpha male thing. It's about complete security in who I am. That's completely different than being an alpha male or being a tough guy. I just I know who I am to the point where no one can intimidate me.
Mhm. Well, the fear doesn't exist if you've already played all the scenarios through in your mind. Right? What was there to be afraid of because you've already experienced that? What as humans, what are some of the things that we should stay away from? Some of the things that we should not go through the process of. I mean, I understand thinking, but like I almost feel like we're in the matrix or something. We just exist. So how do we not just exist? How do we begin to go through a process of enlightenment or a process of understanding, this is what's going to move me forward, this is what's going to continue me down the path that isn't working.
I say one of the best uh, markers to know you're on the right path is being alone, because if you're in the middle of the crowd, you're probably not going the right direction, because the crowds are all bred, born, developed to go in the direction of the people who
Mhm.
are controlling everything. So if you find yourself alone in a place where you're feel comfortable and you're growing, because being alone isn't enough. If you're in a place where you're alone and you're feeling dark, vulnerable,
Mhm.
that's not where you want to be. You want to move away from that as well. You want to be a place where you can be alone and you have the freedom within yourself to grow who you want to be on your terms. When people start putting chains on you or start saying you need to do this, you need to do that, yada yada yada, you don't want to be around that, because now these are people who are trying to put what they want on you. So you have to, that's again going through Stanislavski. What do I want? Why do I want? Because if you don't answer those two questions, you could be doing someone else's why. You could be building someone else's dream instead of building your own because you haven't gone through it enough. So it's always important to reflect on yourself in those moments. So are you in a place where you feel happy, secure, and safe and can grow? That's where you want to be. And like I said, it stinks that it's alone, but until we become a society where we start teaching everybody, it's going to be a lonely path. Because right now, people who go down this road are really spiritual pioneers. These are things that even though we've all experienced, we haven't experienced it in a way that we can show other people a path. Because this is basically a path for people to take. Instead of going out into the wilderness of the mind and the emotions, now we have a road we can fly.
One of the things you just said that kind of makes me wonder is like, so I have my dreams and like you said, learn to your dreams and the things that I want to accomplish. And I know when I'm living, I feel like I'm living in purpose, I'm serving others and I'm doing, but I can't do that by myself. You're right. I can't, I need a team of people that can help me get there. Um, but at the same time, you want people to be the freedom to choose in their own path. Can their path of what they want to achieve be wrapped up inside my dream and my path, or they have to have their own? And if so, then how would I be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve on the planet without if everybody's doing their own thing?
Uh, no, I absolutely believe you can work with teams, and I believe teams are a gift. I just believe in the
Okay.
world we're in, they're a rarity.
Okay.
There's a future where, yeah, we don't have to be alone, be in team, because once we get to the team level, we'll be crushing it because more minds make better progress. It's just
Mhm.
live in that world yet. We live in a very sabotagey world, a very jealous world. So yeah, you can build a team now, but what happens if when you're all running together and that one guy, like in the Matrix, the one guy who
Yeah.
all out, that's the danger of teams right now. But again, there's a lot of examples out there of teams who are just crushing it, who are making progress. So yeah, firmly believe that's a thing. And if you have that, that's a gift and protect it. Absolutely protect it.
Yeah.
But right until we get to a better place in the world, I think it's gonna be a
Mhm.
rarity that you have such thing. Mostly gonna be like me, 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 I want, I want. If somebody has it, I'm gonna take it. And that's sad.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about like when I even started talking about when we need to serve others and to work with others and the selfishness. If everybody got up in the morning and said, "How can I serve somebody today?" then we would solve all of our problems within a couple hours, right? I mean, everybody could get up.
We live in the country we choose. I totally agree with you. We could change everything overnight. We live as individuals saying we can't. We won't come together. If we came together, we can end homelessness is a question of empathy. It's not a question of resources. It's not a question of do we have. We have plenty. We could take all those people off. Like I live here in Alabama. There are literally more churches in Alabama than there are homeless people. It's like if these are houses of God, why don't you let them in there, each one of them? You can't save them all. But I also live by something I call the law of averages. It's not a law, it's just something I grew up with in my own life. And it's like it doesn't matter the group of people you meet. They break down into three groups: 20, 60, 20. 20% are good, percent are bad, 60% are common. And this is the reason I don't like that Edmund Burke quote that says the only thing for evil to exist is for good men to do nothing. Good and bad are polar opposites. They interact no matter what. It's the common people that do nothing. They're the pedestrians. So it's like if you break it down that way, you can see it. And it's like even jobs that I have, 20% of the employees hold every job together. 20% destroy it. The other 60% are just there for the paycheck. It's understanding those dichotomies of people and who you're engaging with, which group do they fall in. It's an advantage because it allows you not to waste time because you can be wasting time on the bad 20% who's stealing from you, or the middle 20% who's just wasting your time, or the good 20% who's going to grow you as an individual.
Yeah. And so as you're thinking, we all like to think of ourselves as a 20 percenter.
Most of us
We
listening,
all think of ourselves as a good 20%, right? I mean, I guess there's some people who say I'm just bad, but for the most part, we think of ourselves. But the reality is, in so many areas, we are in that common 60%, and we haven't moved ourselves out. I mean, I guess if you're living in purpose and you're following your dream, you're going after it, and you're doing something every single day, you're in the 20% of that. But there's other things that you may not be, in the, like when I think of health, right? And think of, these guys who are just like health fanatic net, eat 7 peanuts a day. They're in the top 20% of the healthiest people on the planet. I'm in that 60%. I'm not in bad health. I'm just not in that. What kind of things do after I realize that, what kind of things can I do? Or should I try to live in the 20% in all aspects of my life?
but again, that last question depends on you. Where does
Gotcha.
your happiness derive? Where do you want to be? Because you could push yourself to be in that 20% easy, but you could
Yeah,
be
yeah,
miserable the whole time, not enjoying your life, not savoring it, because you're spending all that time trying to be that and not liking where other people just do it and that's their high. That's where they are. So it starts from you first. Who am I? Who do I want to be? What makes me happiest and most fulfilled? Once I understand that, then because that's my first direction. That's my starting point, rather. And that'll allow me to go into the direction I want to go. Now that I know that, if I do want to be the healthy guy, what do I need to do? Well, I know I need to go to the gym. I need to know I need to burn more calories than I eat. That's the key thing that most people don't want to admit. They want to look for some.
mhm,
It's like, no, it's exercise. It's simple. For most people, it's clinical again. But for the average person, it's burn more calories than you eat. You're going to lose.
mhm,
But again, that takes work. But again, once you realize that too, you can think about fun things you can burning calories isn't just the gym. Burning calories is running in the park with your kid, you know?
yeah,
Can I do to burn calories that will be productive for my life, that will help me live a happy, more fulfilling life? I could start walking in the park and noticing nature, or I can take up a sport or a hobby. So it's like once you find out where you're at, where you want to go. Now moving, because it's not hard to move in a direction. The hard thing is, again, the unknown. People don't know where they're at and people don't know where they're going. How can you expect them to move?
Yeah. Well, and that thing, I'm gonna get real philosophical. We can come back down a little bit, but why are we here? What is the purpose of life? When we're born and then we go through, I don't know, 100 years, 100, however many years of life that we're on this planet. What's our purpose? Why are we here?
There's then it can be answered multiple ways, but the simplest
Mhm.
is it's a gift. You're here. You're
Okay.
here. You have the opportunity to experience life, and maybe there's reincarnation, maybe there's not, maybe there's afterlife, maybe it's not. But what we know is we got this short blip of time where we can feel everything, we can experience everything. So instead of it's like if I'm on a roller coaster, right? I'm not going to ask why I'm on the roller coaster. I'm gonna thrill the ride, you know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
I'm not being, disrespectful to the roller coaster saying it's not important to know that, but it's like, it's such a short ride. Do I wanna know why I'm on the roller coaster, or do I wanna get that rush? And that's what life is. Most people go through their whole life without any rush, without any passion, without feeling alive. I mean, people have lived without ever feeling alive, and that makes me sad
yeah,
because, that's just what we see. We follow the crowds. We don't try to explore on our own, but exploring on our own, like being the Lewis and Clark of the soul, is not luxurious, but it's a life well lived. Like my life is small, but I would put my life against anybody on the planet and not feel daunted by them or not feel like, I couldn't hold my own. It's like I've lived a crazy life. It's been a small life, but I've experienced the world in so many different ways that, now I'm at the point where it's like, does it matter why I'm here? I mean, I help people because I want to be a good person, and that's beneficial, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm a drop in the bucket. Even the small help that I've done is really worthless in the grand scheme. So and I'm not negating being a good person. I want to be a good person. I want to help people. That's the right way. I don't need anything to tell me that. I just know it. But at the same
yeah,
time, still zoom out enough to see, well, you're an insignificant piece of the puzzle. So it's enjoy the ride.
yeah. Like you said, in the whole scheme of thing, and the joy and the fulfillment, if that's our pursuit, the pursuit of happiness, right? Is what why we're here. And I just seen so much more. Like, how many experiences can I bubble in? And then how, for me, when I see serving others and that enjoyment that comes from there, and like you said, so sad that others don't get to have so many of those experiences or spend so much of their time not trying to have an experience. Like, trying to be mad at somebody, trying to be angry, trying to have all this negative energy because somebody said something to me 10 years ago. I've decided 20 years ago, I'm not going to ever talk to them again. I'm not ever going to, be part of that family again because one person in the family said something 20 years ago. And it's like, you just wonder, how do you help people get through that and realize that blip is just a blip, and if we don't take that and run with it and try to pursue those things. I mean, like when I go back to identity, I think of all the people who have tried to decide who we are based on who they wanted us to be, and then some of us actually try to fulfill that. My mom says I got to be a doctor, so I'm going to go be a doctor. You help people.
Going into
Yeah.
that, just let me hit on that real quick, and this shows the flaw in our plan as a society or whatever. We
Mhm.
grew up like that. I remember growing up that always hearing, "You want to make money, you want to make a living, you got to be a doctor and a lawyer. You got to be a doctor and a lawyer." But look at flash forward to now. Two of the most corrupted industries we have are the medical field and the legal field because they're populated with people who are just there for the money. They're not there for the love of the law or the love of medicine. They don't want to help people. They want to make the bottom line. So,
Mhm.
are pushing people down the wrong road has corrupted both of those industries. We have to fix them. But it goes back to your question, how do you bring them back? And the reason you bring it back goes back to grounding. These 7 questions are grounding you as an individual. We have to ground people again back to the earth and what they are, who they are as a spirit. Because if you ground them, now they can find themselves again because they're lost. They're lost in these false identities. This is who I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to dress. I'm a part of this, greater machine. It's like, no, you're an individual. What can you, because to me, every human being is a lottery ticket. What they can bring to the table is unknown. If we actually started trying to invest in all of humanity and growing them, the 20% of the global populace who are super geniuses would rise up and they would show us things we never knew were possible yet. We're not at that level yet. So that's what we have to do first is first stop pushing people down the wrong roads, start teaching
Mhm.
tools they need that they can grow from themselves and allow them to grow from themselves. Ground them and let them go.
Yeah, and I just think of so many that try to push, instead of giving experiences, they try to push down a path that they want for somebody else. And as I have 8 children and 16 grandkids now, and my only goal is to give them every experience possible so they can figure out what it is they want to do. I don't care what they do. I don't care if they know how to money. I don't care, as long as they're happy. But if they don't know, they can't know that without experiences, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the one thing. This is like if you're teaching a kid to ride a bike, you put training wheels on. These tools and
Mhm.
techniques are the training wheels for those experiences. They give you something, the handrails to hold on to, so you don't have to jump out in the darkness. Like when I said when I was my way of doing it was wrong was because when I was actively listening as a little one, when people dumped their toxic energy, their toxic lifestyle, all these bad things on me, I didn't know the difference. I just started picking up, examining it, and created versions of myself based on this sludge. So I started creating, negative versions of me without realizing. So it's important about it's like food or anything. It's important about what you ingest. But with these tools and techniques, they let you they're handrails so you don't start picking up the bad things. You're just picking up the good things that you can learn and will help you along the way. And that's what I feel like we need to start giving people is the path to these things instead of just flying blind.
Yeah. Well, I love this. Like the techniques and the tools that can help you become. And you just brought up to me when I was thinking about, well, I have a family, right? And I was thinking about you talked about toxic energy and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, first thought that came to mind is you can't change your family. But then yeah, you can. Absolutely change it. You don't have to spend time with them just because they were born with the same blood and everything. Other you know, yeah. Why do we say things like that? That
Because the
I
program
have to go.
it's all
Go
been
ahead.
programmed in. Like I said, we're all living on programs. It's the
Yeah.
matrix is real in a metaphorical sense because
Mhm.
we know our education system was created by the factory system. It was
Yeah.
created to create nuts and bolts. We're trying because the thing is, if you create everybody in this country and turn them into the same person, that one person's easy to govern. Now, if you
Yeah.
create a nation of individuals, that's a lot more difficult to govern. So we're all these programs are put into us. This is the way you think. This is the way you feel. It's like during World War II, when we were running out of meats, they started feeding the leftover parts of the animals, and then they started telling us it's a delicacy. So now it's a comfort food. They changed the way we eat by just telling us stuff. So it's not hard to do. It's happened all the time. It's just now I'm saying instead of letting them control how the programming goes on, we have tools and techniques that will allow us
Mhm.
Windows 11 to get in there and code ourselves or,
Yeah.
interface ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So talk to me now, about how we get a hold, or how do we start these techniques and these tools, and how you play a part in. Uh, this has been so enlightening. I've learned so much,
Thank
and what goes to me now is, okay, that's great. And how many meetings have we been to? Like, oh, this is such good stuff. Then you go home and go, okay, I'm excited, but excited about what? What do I do? How do I begin to change? Because I'm excited about doing it, and learning these things and growing, but I don't know how. Like you said, we haven't been taught or stuff. So where do we start?
I wrote a book about this. It's called All Your Best Selves. This is what the cover looks like. It's
Okay.
available on Amazon. But what I have done essentially is it's written in three parts. The first part is autobiographical, talks about my life in relation to the idea. The second part talks about the idea. And the third part is what I refer to as the intangible toolbox. So basically,
Okay.
I take I'm only taking three systems, but it's a lot of information. It's the bulk of the book is the intangible toolbox. But I take the Stanislavski system, the Meisner technique, and Uta Hagen's exercises, and improv as well. Just I will go lightly on improv, but it can go a lot deeper. I broke them all down in the book, showing how we use them as actors, but I've also side by side shown how you can use them as a human being on your normal everyday life with exercises. So basically,
Ooh.
take these tools, it explains how it works, and then it breaks down into there. And I'm also trying to work to break it down into a course online. But right now, the best way is going on Amazon, buying the book. I would appreciate if you left a review if anyone who reads it. That would mean a lot to me. You can also check out my website, www.tbcenterprises.com. That's TBC like Tango Bravo Charlie. I'm starting to put videos up on there. Once I break this down into a video course, I'm probably going to put it on there as well. Because, like I said, this is meat and potatoes of what we need to grow ourselves. Like even the song. Oh, let me just rattle off one thing. These are a list of the soft skills that are learned as like a byproduct of doing what we refer to the work. And it's like I said, these aren't just acting skills. These are life skills, presence, situational awareness, initiative, grit, projection, wit, breeziness, motivation, emotional regulation, empathy, critical thinking, teamwork, public speaking, problem solving, creativity, listening, interdependence, mindfulness, preparation, organization, goal orientation, interpersonal skills, communication. Like I said, these are all just real life skills that are learned as a byproduct of doing the work. So, like I said, when I tripped over this idea and saw it, it's like I recognize this is rock solid gold information. It's just I'm not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. So I'm trying to learn how to get it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and so important. As you read the book, is there a way not to be overwhelmed? Is it do you like an elephant one bite at a time, or do you soak it all in and then try to break it up? Then, and what would be your suggestions? I think a lot of people are going to want to get the book. I
I
just
think.
don't want it to be one of those books that doesn't
Well,
move
it's
people forward.
and the way it's written. I wrote it very simply. So it depends on the person again, because to me, I take everything with a case by case basis. If you're somebody that can get stuff, you can run because the first two parts are important in the aspect of getting you primed. The third part is really where the magic is. So it's a question of once you get to the tangible toolbox, do you just want to just jump through, read everything to get a feel for it first? Or do you want to take it step by step by step? It's written in that way so you can go either direction. So it's about your pace. What do you feel comfortable with? So if you don't want to feel overwhelmed, take it one exercise at a time. And it even says in the book, I mean, you can take a week on this exercise if you need to. Get it to the point where you're comfortable with it, because it's like anything. It's like you're training yourself to use this. So train yourself to the point where you feel comfortable with this exercise. Once you feel comfortable with the exercise, move on. Some people can just run right through and everything. It's like, oh no, what? Because some people are actually doing this. I mean, this isn't like I said. This information is 100 years old. I'm not the one creating it. I'm just pointing to it. So people who've gone through this can say, "Oh, I know how to do this. This is easy for me." Or some people are just born in that top 20% where they're just born with this knowledge. So it's like, "Oh yeah, that's great," but it might be a nugget or two in there that can help redirect him or tighten up their vision. So it depends on the user, but again, it's all about comfortability. How comfortable do you feel with this exercise? Once you feel that level, move on.
What's your favorite exercise? Your favorite exercise in the book?
Magic if. I love the magic if because it's
Okay.
like it's so versatile. I mean, you can just get in there. 'Cause any situation I'm in, if I don't feel right, okay, well, what if I change this? How will it make it better? So it allows me active ability to change the moment I am in just by thinking.
And have you? I mean, like this has happened in real life where maybe you were in a scary situation or in a an uncomfortable situation where you used it and it changed. I mean, is there an example you can give me of where it just changed how you interacted in that moment because of the technique?
Yeah, it wasn't so much the magic gift, but there's one moment I would like to talk about that
Okay.
it was very important to me. This is back in 2007. I was living in Manhattan. I was about to do a show, and I had the venue set up at the Hard Rock Cafe's New York room. And when I get there, the manager was like, "Sorry, man, somebody you know had a higher price and they bid out the room, so you don't have your venue." And I was going to do a reading for a play series.
Oh
I had
wow.
yeah, and it was just like I remember walking out just feeling completely defeated. What is I going to do? It's like in a half hour, people are going to start showing up. Like this was right at that time of the curtains. And then I just remember feeling myself as I'm walking down the street get shoved in the back. And it was the only way I can describe it is I shoved myself in the back. And when
Hmm.
I did, another version of me stepped in, pushed that broken version out of me. And it's like, no, we got to move. We have to take action right now. And then I found this other place called the Bull Moose Saloon right down in Hell's Kitchen. I got them to let me borrow their room for a couple hours, no charge. I sent my director to the Hard Rock Cafe, so anyone who came there would send them to the Bull Moose. I mean, just redirected everything within a half
Yeah.
hour. And we could have opened curtain at 7 p.m., but I held it for 7:15 just for stragglers. But it was like in that moment, these tools and techniques that I spent my life developing saved me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have pulled off that show. I don't believe it for a second.
That's so cool. And I can even, what's so neat is I can picture that, like in a movie or something, like where the little ghost guy comes out of the front because he
Yes.
hits you in the back. Then he turns around and says, like, what the heck are you doing? What is it? Get this done instead of, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. As whoever the listeners that are here, I encourage you to go get the book. I encourage you to do the exercises because you can become the person that you need to be, and stop just trying to do everything and have everything before you get to some of these techniques. And the faster you can learn and the faster that you can implement them in your life, the more fulfilled you're going to be able to be in your life. And so we'll put in the show notes, we'll put links to the book that are going to Amazon for people to be able to get it. If you need to interact with Jim, I'm sure there will be a way for you to do it. Go to his website. We'll put that on the bottom as well. And man, just thank you again. I love it that you were on. I love it that you're doing it. I love that you take an action. So many people say, these are the things that I want to do. These are the things I want to accomplish. And then they don't do them. They sit on it all the time. And whatever that green goblin or whatever it is that jumps into their life that says, you can't do this, they listen to them. And so I'm asking you to stop listening to the things that are telling you can't and start doing the things you can. Have something shove you in the back, turn around, look you in the face and tell you, get going, because that's what I love you to do. And so go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead. If this episode, was right for somebody you think, it probably is for you, but if there's somebody that needs to listen to it, please share it with them. Let them know about it, because they're not going to know about it if you don't. And then they're not going to be mad at you if you do and they like it. And if they don't want to listen to it, they won't. But at least give them the opportunity to hear, because there was some really good information. I would go back and listen to this again. All right, so we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget, I believe that you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we will talk to you next time. Thanks, Jim, so much. Appreciate it.
Take care. Have a great day.